On YouTube, we can find out many movies saying that the US dollar actually is going to collapse, that this is actually the end of the US dollar, that this is the end of the fiat currencies. Is it the truth? What would then happen if this is the end of the US dollar? And maybe that is not true. Maybe this is just a simple panic made by people who want to earn on panic. So we are going to look if this is really collapse of US dollar, if US dollar became next German mark like 100 years ago, because I don't know if you know, but 100 years ago the German franc actually collapsed. So this is what happened. Also, around 70 years ago, the collapse of the British pound has begun. Actually, the British pound was replaced by the US dollar. So once British pound was so expensive that you would have to give around 90 years ago, 100 years ago, $4 per £1. That means if you had 1,000 pounds, then you would have to pay $4,000 per this 1,000 pounds. Now it is obviously different story, as actually the equivalent is equal, is almost 1-to-1. So you get 1,000 dollars for 1,000 pounds and 1,000 pounds. Actually, you have to pay a little bit more dollars than pounds in number. Yes, sometimes it is equal. Sometimes it is equal because British pound sometimes is losing so much that actually 1,000 pounds equals $1,000 and opposite. Now it's the big question. Why internet is full of movies, of creations, of articles saying that this is the collapse of US dollar, this is collapse of US economy, hegemony, etc., etc. Maybe this is just a big lie. Maybe this is just a big lie. We are going to try to find out on the basic data that actually is accessible for everybody. One thing is for sure that US dollar is not so important like before, and US is actually going down in many cases. For example, we can see that on this article here. That after 18 years in the European Union, the average earnings in China are higher than in Poland, which is in European Union. That means actually the average pay in China now is higher than in Poland. But Poland is actually a part of the European Union, part of those Western countries, part of the NATO. So this is a big question, because people around the world think that Poland is kind of a client state of the United States or client states of other hegemonies, actually, or client states of Britain or client state of France or Germany. This is what people are tend to think. This is not really truth, but actually kind of it is truth, because well, if we see at this what we can see in the first line of our lives. It is quite astonishing experience, thinking that Chinese they are richer than Polish people, and Poland is in the European Union, which they say is very well developed. It's strange, because Poland been in European Union 20 years. It has this is what they say, strong ties with the US, UK, and well, itself with the Europe, because it is in the central of the Europe. But this is a big question. If the dollar is so good, if the West is so good, so how on earth Chinese are richer than Polish people at the moment? How on earth? How is this happening? How is this? So that means actually Chinese are better than Polish people. The European Union is not giving to Poland as much as China is giving to China. So China is on its own, and they are managing better their finances, and they are now higher than in Poland. But Poland should be actually. But Poland is in the richest union around the world, but. Is it really the richest union around the world? Because the European Union is the richest union around the world. This is what they say. But is it the truth? Is it the truth? Now we are getting out of this topic of the US dollar, because we are trying to find out actually what is happening at the moment. If the dollar is so good, why on earth? Why on earth the key allies in Europe, like Poland, are in worse situation than China? This is a big question. How on earth they can say that the European Union is the best, the wealthiest union in the world, if the Chinese actually 50 years ago, you see, the Poland used to be Poland was sold by British and Americans after they betrayed in 39, 45, and they been sold to the Russians, to the Russian Soviets, and there was communism for 50 years in Poland. And then they joined the European Union. They transformed Poland. Transformed. Why I'm using Poland? I'm using Poland because it is a big country in the central of Europe, which is very important. And this is a key ally in Europe. This is what they say now. U.S. ally in Europe. This is what they say. And this is a Central Europe. It's a central, and it being a communist country like China. It is communist country. Like Poland. This is what they say that is not a communist country anymore. However, 50 years ago, average Pole during those communist times was richer than Chinese by 5 or 10 times. China was so poor 50 years ago. That actually life in Poland was very, very good comparing to Chinese. Now we can find out on many data that actually Chinese are richer than Poland. They are richer, but Poland joined the richest union in the world, European Union, actually from which the Britain got out and is getting worse and worse anyway. Key NATO ally, US ally, whatever, but this key ally of the United States, this actually Central Europe, that joined European Union 20 years ago, and before Poland before joined European Union was actually developing faster. The GDP growth was much higher, 2-3 times higher than now, actually. And after 20 years in the European Union as a key ally with the United States, and in one of the biggest countries in the European Union, Poland actually is not growing so fast like 20 years ago. It actually fell behind the Chinese and is depopulating. There is a depopulation in Poland, as actually the citizens got out of the Poland to Germany, to Britain, to Belgium, Netherlands, Scandinavia, Switzerland, etc., Spain, Italy, whatever, to all these countries. Actually, and there is now the swap of the society, the swap of people in Poland, because millions of people are coming to Poland from outside of the Europe and the European Union. So a big social change is getting in Poland. The Polish people are disappearing at the moment in Poland. Disappearing. They get out. So if the first question is it dollar so good? Is it euro so good? Is it British pound so good? How on earth is it so good if actually Poland fell behind the Chinese? And we can see, and another thing, why I am discussing Poland, discussing US dollar and euro and British pound, because Poland actually has 200 billions of dollars in their national bank, NBP. The head of the national bank, Professor Glapiński, actually bought so much gold in recent times. Actually, the reserve of gold are growing in Poland. However, those reserves, the most of those reserves are kept in Britain and in New York. So actually Poland doesn't have gold in the country, maybe quarter of its. So it is like they have gold, but they don't have it. And there is a history that actually British stole the Polish gold during they betrayed Poland during Second World War, and they actually stole the gold, didn't give back, and they keep they keeping still in Britain new gold. It's a funny if you look at the Polish that's you keep your money in the pocket of people who actually stole your gold before. It is very funny. But, and anyway, we are not talking about Polish gold. We are not talking about Polish state. We are talking about the dollar. About this, what is happening in the internet. About so-called de-dollarization. About so-called fiat currencies. About so-called printing money. Growing M3. And we are trying to find out why. Is it truth? First of all, we know that if the data are true, if the data are correct, and that is true that Chinese are richer than Polish people at the moment, that means the West is collapsing. It is falling behind the Chinese. The Chinese. Good luck for Chinese. It is true that joining European Union, joining NATO will not give you wealth. Well, there would be even worse than that in Poland. I don't know. Actually, Poland was growing much faster, much better, and there was no depopulation in Poland before Poland joined the European Union. Before Poland joined the European Union, there was so many children in Poland. The rate was high. People were working in Poland, but when they got to the European Union, they just ran away from Poland. You know? Yeah. Now it is a problem. Because there are no people, and only people that want to come to Poland are from the third world countries, so Poland may become third world country. So this is another thing. After 20 years of NATO and European Union, there is less and less Polish people in Poland, there is less Poland in Poland, and Polish people will become eventually a third world country if they will take millions of third world people. It's not about against the third world people, but if there will be many people from third world countries, that means this country will become third world country. This is obvious. And this is what is happening in Great Britain, for example. British people are getting out, Europeans are getting out after the Britain got out of the European, they are getting out. Britain is becoming African Asian state, even Europeans, even British don't want to live in the UK anymore. So how on earth this dollar, this euro, and this British pound can be good. And it's good to compare. Is so bad, the US dollar? And we have data that shows that it isn't so bad. The dollar isn't so bad. Because if we check dollar, let's say